Hey, volleyball coaches and players. Today we are continuing our full breakdown series, and we're breaking down one of the least known defensive systems in the game, the one blocker defense. We'll cover how it works, when to use it against outside attacks, right side attacks, quick middles, gaps, back middles, slides, and back row attacks. We'll also point out the most common mistakes to avoid, so your team can keep more balls off the floor and frustrate your opponents. Before we get started, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so we can keep creating more in-depth volleyball breakdowns. And if you haven't already, check out our other defensive system breakdowns like perimeter defense and middle up defense. So what is one blocker defense? One blocker defense is a volleyball defensive system where the setter plays middle front and is the only blocker, while the rest of the team spreads out in the backcourt to defend tips, rolls, and hard-driven balls. So the setter will move and attempt to block the outside, opposite, and middle hitters, which will allow them to take the second contact in order to stay in system. Today we'll be mainly talking about two one-blocker defensive systems. The 1-1-4 system, which places 4 players deep to dig balls, and also be including the 1-2-3 system, which places 2 players picking up tips. Here is how you set it up. So here is your typical base setup. For older and college teams, the right back and left back might begin 2 feet off the 10-foot line. But for this example, we will start with a typical base setup. Now once the set has left the setter's hands, this is when the players react. Never sooner as to be ready for setter dumps and overpasses. Now let's react to the opponent's outside hitter getting set in a 1-1-4 system. With a typical single block read, the right front will shift up behind the block for tips. Then right back will move to the sideline for line shots and plant their feet. The middle back will read the inside of the block. The left back will drop straight back outside the block. And the left front will take a 3-step off the net for sharp attacks. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. Now let's react to the opponent's right side hitter getting set in a 1-1-4 system. With a typical single block read, the left front steps up behind the block for tips, then left back will read and run to the sideline for line shots and plant their feet. The middle back will read the inside seam of the block. The right back will drop straight back and read outside the block, and the right front will take a 3-step off the net for sharp attacks. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. Now let's react to the opponent's middle hitter getting set for a quick set in a 1-1-4 system. The right front player will react and drop off behind the block for tips. The right back player will quickly react outside the block for the sharp hit. The middle back player will either read outside of the block to also help with tips or read the over the block to take that part of the court away. The left back player will take outside the block, and the left front will take a 3-step off the net for sharp attacks. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. This is why it is important to communicate what you are blocking with the back row. Most young teams read, but they don't know what they are supposed to be reading. They tend to just drop back. As a coach, parent, or player, make sure you have these conversations. Now let's react to the opponent's middle hitter getting set for a gap set in a 1-1-4 system. In this instance, your person blocking should always follow the opposing team's middle. In this case, keeping their right hand on them as they move out. The right front player will react and drop off behind for tips. You left front player will drop off for sharp attack and tips. Your left back should drop and place themselves around the block. The middle back should typically read behind the block, and your right back should read the other side of the block. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. Now let's react to the opponent's middle hitter getting set for a back 1 set in a 1-1-4 system. In this instance, your blocker should always follow the opposing team's middle. In this case, keeping their left hand on them as they move behind the setter, the left front will drop behind the block for tips. The left back will get sharp attacks. Your middle back will read the behind the block. the right back will get outside of the block, and the right front will three-step drop for sharp attacks and tips as well. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. For a slide is a bit different, especially if there is a front row setter in a 1-1-4 system. The blocker needs to maintain contact with the front row setter until the ball is set. After the set, they can then block the player running a slide in. Right front will take a three-step off the net for sharp attacks. Left back will move to the line. Middle back will move behind the block. And the right back player will step outside the block. And left front will drop behind the block for tips. Or communicate with your team that you will run perimeter against the slide. Here are the adjustments for a 1-2-3 system. And finally, for a back row attack for both systems, there are a couple of schemes you can run. For younger players, you can just have everyone drop back except for the block. It's easier for them to react for tips and places them into positions balls are mostly hit. For the older teams and in more difficult divisions, you may want to have your defenders drop to the lines for harder hit balls and react to tips. So when should you use one blocker defense? You should use one blocker defense when your setter is in the front row and you want to maximize floor defense, especially against teams that rely more on tips, roll shots, or controlled swings than pure power. But this system can struggle against strong, high-level hitters because having only one blocker gives attackers more open net to swing into. Here are some advantages of the one blocker defense. Maximizes floor defense, putting more players in the court to dig instead of blocking. Works well when the setter is in the front row, allowing the offense to stay organized after the dig. Helps against teams that tip and roll a lot, since more defenders are available short. Reduces blocking mistakes, especially for younger or undersized teams. Simplifies defensive responsibilities, making it easier to teach at the youth level. Here are some weaknesses of the one blocker defense. Offers little net pressure, making it easier for strong hitters to swing freely. Struggles against powerful attackers, especially at higher levels of play. Requires excellent backcourt reading and discipline, or balls will drop quickly. Can give up easy points on quick sets, since there's no double block. Less effective as competition level increases, where hitters can exploit the lack of a solid block. Here are some coaching tips. Teach the setter strong blocking fundamentals, since they are the only net defender. Emphasize reading the hitter early, so backcourt defenders aren't late reacting. Set clear defensive depths, with players ready to step in for tips, but still defend hard swings. Train emergency setting, because digs may not always go to the setter. A great drill for one blocker defense is the one blocker read drill. Start players in base, toss or set balls to different hitters, and have defenders rotate into their spots based on the block, mix in tips and rolls so they learn to adjust. That's your deep dive on one blocker defense. Get your team rotating correctly, stay disciplined with communication, and you'll start taking away those tough outside swings. I hope you found this helpful. For a free download of this printable sheet for players or your own use, click on the link below and visit volleyballtools.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions or want to see more volleyball resources. See you in the next video.